Okay, morning everybody. I hope you are all healthy or okay and more careful with the COVID-19 pandemic. Moreover, with the discovery of a new mutation that is easy to transmit and more serious. Stay healthy so that your immune system is strong and follow the health protocol. Now let us discuss about carbohydrate metabolism. If we discuss carbohydrate metabolism, we might suspect that we'll discuss first about the formation of a carbohydrate. Let's say like photosynthesis. This photosynthesis we have already discussed 2 weeks ago, probably. That discuss about the conversion of carbon dioxide by using sunlight as a source of energy to produce carbohydrates such as glucose. However, in this following discussion, we will first discuss about catabolism of carbohydrate, the source of this carbohydrate, and the pathway for energy formation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Now let us see glucose is major energy source. And next, please. There are at least 3 macromolecule that can be used as a macronutrient in human. For example, carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Next slide, please. This diagram describe about the structure of carbohydrate. In the left side, describe about simple carbohydrate, and in the right side, explain or describe about the complex carbohydrate. In the single carbohydrate, such as glucose, fructose, and many other, these monosaccharide can be coupled one each other or coupled to produce a disaccharide, for example, sugar and dairy and many others. But in the complex carbohydrate, we can see that this complex carbohydrate, it can be found from plant, let's say like starch. Also, we can found from digestible for human, like fiber, and we can find also from animal such as glycogen. This glycogen is a source as energy then abundant in let's say in a muscle. Next slide, please. Now let us move to discuss about carbohydrate digestion. Carbohydrate digestion began in the mouth where salivary amylase start to break down. After breaking down through the digestive system, monosaccharides are absorbed into the bloodstream. Let us see in the figure on the right side, there are at least four steps. The step one, you see the red color. It is a brand chain of polysaccharide. Then in step two, uh, this polysaccharide will mix with enzyme amylase. And in step three, this enzyme will catalyze the breakdown of bonding between one monosaccharide into one another. And in step four, we got the result probably monosaccharide and a small amount of disaccharide probably. Next slide, please. Let us see this diagram. From this PPT, we can see that every organ has their own glucose transporter. For example, GLUT1 are integral membrane protein. This GLUT1 mainly in red cell and retina. And GLUT2, it is in liver and pancreatic beta cell. And GLUT3 in brain, GLUT4 in heart, skeletal muscle, and adipose tissue. While GLUT5, it can be act as a fructose transporter in a small intestine, and as GLUT1 can act as a galactose transporter in a small intestine and kidney. So from this explanation, you should keep in mind that every organ has their own glucose transporter. Next slide, please. Then, if we discuss our glucose, this glucose will be used by a specific organ in a certain kind of a way. For example, brain and muscle use this glucose as a major fuel, and also brain can use ketone bodies as a fuel during severe starvation or in a first condition. And also, liver does not use glucose and is major fuel, and this liver export glucose for use by other tissues. And the last, only liver and kidney can metabolize glucose to export to the blood. You can see in the figure on the right side, there are several organs of human. You can see that there is a liver, heart, brain, and many others. Then this organ will use glucose for a specific purpose. Next slide, please. Then, if we discuss about this glucose, what is the effect of absorb of these sugars? The first one, we should understand that absorbed monosaccharides are either exose or pentose. Absorbed pentose are excreted in urine because the body does not deal with them. And the last, absorbed hexose are glucose, fructose, and galactose. Fructose and galactose are converted into glucose in the liver. You can see the diagram, the right side. There is a mechanism, but I think it's a very small. The figure is very small, so it's difficult for me to explain to you. But right after this lecture, you can see the figure by using a special glass to unwrap the figures. Next slide, please. Now let us discuss about metabolic pathway. Metabolic pathway. Let's next slide, please. Metabolic pathway of glucose will discuss or explain that glucose is converted into high energy phosphate bond of ATP and electron donor NADH, FADH2, and NADPH. Through the first one, it can be a pathway of glycolysis. The second one, Krebs cycle. The third one, pentose phosphate pathway. Then intracellular generation of glucose, gluconeogenesis, and glucogenolysis. Next slide, please. In discussing glycolysis, there are several steps that we should understand about. The step one of cellular respiration, that this takes place in a cytosol of the cell, and in this glycolysis, we can see that there are two main phases. The first one is an energy requiring phase. I use 2 ATP, and energy releasing phase make 4 ATP and 2 NADH. Then the net of this glycolysis will produce 2 ATP and 2 NADH. So if you discuss about this, if you discuss about the net of product of this glycolysis, then you can think back to the macronutrient, as I mentioned before. Let's say if I have say like 100 gram of glucose, 90% of it will be enter glycolysis. Then if I ask you how many kilocalories that you got from the 100 gram of glucose after the glycolysis, can you imagine and can you calculate how much that you got from the 100 gram of glucose converted enter the glycolysis pathway? Anybody can help me? So, in answer the question, you should keep in mind, you should convert it 100 gram of glucose into a mole. Then how many mole of the glucose that you got from 100 gram? That if you have, let's say, 1 mole of glucose, it's equal to how many kilogram of energy that you got. Then you can calculate the conversion of this glucose into energy. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, in discussing this glycolysis, there are at least two phase that you should remember. The first one is energy requiring phase, and the second one energy producing phase. In this energy requiring phase from glucose, it will be attached to phosphate group in a step 1 and in a step 3. You can see that in a conversion of this glucose into glucose 6-phosphate, it needs ATP, 1 ATP. Then in a step T, once again, this conversion also need ATP. Then now you got in this molecule they attach two phosphate group into one molecule of glucose. The modified sugar is more reactive and phosphate addition trap glucose inside the cell. Then after we got this molecule, then will be cut up into two molecule. This one molecule and others in the upper side of the PowerPoint. This molecule can be isomerized one each other. This means that one molecule can be converted to others molecule. Then in calculating the energy of this pathway, you can assume that you got 2 mole of this molecule or 2 mole of this molecule. It's not problem. Next slide, please. Then let us see about the phosphofructokinase regulation. This phosphofructokinase regulation is considered as the most important enzyme in glycolysis. This enzyme speed up or slow down glycolysis in response to energy need of the cell. Once again, it can be speed up or slow down glycolysis in response to energy need of the cell. High level of ATP allosterically inhibit the enzyme in the liver, thus lowering its affinity for fructose 6-phosphate. You can see from this figure The red one is this one. The height of this and this diagram a bit different with the lower one. Next slide, please. Now let us move to the second step of important glycolysis. We call that one energy releasing phase. Energy releasing phase, it means that this pathway will produce energy. As you can see from this slide, you have this molecule. In the first step, from glucose, you got two of this molecule, right? But in the pathway is just mention one molecule. So you should keep in mind in discussing the energy, you should remember that you should time up two molecule of this one from the previous one that I have already mentioned. In this diagram, you can see that one ADP, this one, let us see. Let me see, make me say right. From this side, you have two molecule of this one, right? You have two molecule of this one. The first one you got NADH. This is abundant of energy. Then this one will produce also ATP, and this one also will produce one ATP. But you have two molecule of this one. That's why you see in this figure that it's pointed that you should remember that you got two molecule of this one. If you have just only one molecule of this one, you have just only two molecule of ATP and one molecule of NADH. But if you have up to a molecule of this one, it means that you just time it up into two, then you got two molecule of NADH, then you have four molecule of ATP. That's the energy releasing phase. So summation of this one, you have in the energy releasing phase, you got 4 ATP and 2 of NADH, but in energy requiring phase, you need 2 ATP. Then the net of the reaction will produce 2 ATP and 2 of NADH. Then if somebody asks you about this kind of thing related to the nutrient or yes, like nowadays we have a problem of nutrition, malnutrition, how many kilogram or how many gram that you need to get energy to use the energy to work or as a chemical energy. Next slide, please. Then probably this is the end of our discussion. The effect of pyruvate and NADH. Again, I will mention to you the effect of pyruvate and NADH. The fat, it's mean ending story of this Pyruvate and NADH. That's Pyruvate, according to oxygen availability, uh, we can say that this aerobic respiration will be broken down to carbon dioxide, and in anaerobic respiration broken down to lactic acid. So let's see this problem. If you got in the morning, you walking faster, or you run away very fast, then in such a case probably your condition got anaerobic respiration. So probably in that case it will produce lactic acid, not carbon dioxide. So sometime after you take a rest, then your body got relaxed because abundant of lactic acid. But if you take a rest in several hours, then this lactic acid will be uh, converted into another compound again. It can be as acetyl CoA. Then let's move to NADH. This NADH will cycle back and forth between the oxidized form and reduced state. And this, in this case, through electron transport chain or donating the electron to acceptor molecule. So right after this, because in discussing this carbohydrate metabolism, so many things to do, so many things to understand about. But for this morning, I think that's all for this morning. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you. If there is any question, I'm very happy to answer your question. Thank you so much.